Long Beach just became the aerospace capital of the West Coast, and somehow, most people still think it's just the cheaper option next to Orange County. Here's what they're missing: a $1 billion defense tech campus, 5,500 engineers building fighter jets, SpaceX recovering rockets at the port, Rocket Lab headquarters, Ford's EV development center, billions in investments, thousands of six-figure jobs, and housing prices that still make sense. I'm Rick Lee with Real Broker, and I've been watching Long Beach transform for years. But what's happening right now isn't just another economic cycle. This is a complete repositioning of the city's identity. From Port Town to Space Beach, and if you're thinking about buying in Southern California over the next few years, there are three numbers you need to understand about where Long Beach is headed. I'm gonna break down all three in this video. Before we get there are three questions I keep hearing from buyers. One, how sustainable is the growth? Is this just one company, or is there real momentum? Two, where are these high-wage workers actually gonna live? And what does that mean for prices? And three, what's the one mistake most people are making when they look at Long Beach real estate right now? I'm gonna answer all three, but first, you need to understand the scale of what's happening here. The Port of Long Beach just moved 9.9 million shipping containers last year. That's a record. Second busiest port in America. 200 billion worth of cargo moving through one city. That alone supports 575,000 jobs across Southern California. But here's what I've been noticing when talking to buyers. Most people still think Long Beach is just a port city. Logistics, warehouses, blue-collared work, and they're completely missing what's been building here for the past 5 years. Because while everyone was focused on the port, Long Beach was quietly becoming home to some of the most advanced aerospace and defense technology companies in the world. Let me give you the quick history. Boeing had a massive presence in Long Beach for decades. C-17 military transport planes, tens of thousands of workers, but in 2015, Boeing closed the facility. The property sat empty, and for years, Long Beach had this identity crisis. Were they a port city, a beach town, an aerospace hub that lost its anchor? The answer is becoming very clear. They're all three, but the aerospace piece is what's driving everything right now. Here's the number that changed everything. In January 2026, Anduril Industries announced they're building a $1 billion manufacturing campus in Long Beach. Not an office, a full-scale production facility on the same Boeing property I just mentioned, now called Douglas Park. By mid-2027, they'll have 5,500 employees there. These aren't entry-level roles. We're talking aerospace engineers, software developers, advanced manufacturing specialists, building autonomous fighters, submarine drones, defense systems. But here's the thing, Anduril didn't choose Long Beach randomly. They chose it because of what was already there. And that brings me to the question I get all the time. Is this just one company, or is there real momentum here? Let me show you. SpaceX has a 12-acre facility at the Port of Long Beach. Every single Dragon capsule that returns from the International Space Station on the West Coast gets recovered here. They pull spacecrafts out of the Pacific Ocean and process them in Long Beach. That's not a satellite office, that's a mission critical infrastructure. Rocket Labs, they're headquartered in Long Beach. Not just an office, their entire C-suite is here. They just won a $550 million contract with the US Space Force. They've launched 64 missions and they're expanding. Relativity Space, they raised $1.3 billion in funding. They're 3D printing entire rockets in Long Beach. Not components, entire rockets. They just announced a 1 million square foot expansion. Ford opened a 250,000 square foot EV development center here. 450 engineers, a lot of them former Tesla and Apple talent. They're not just assembling vehicles, they're designing them. Vast is developing commercial space stations in Long Beach. JetZero is designing blended wing aircrafts here. I could keep going. The point is this: when Anduril announced their billion-dollar campus, they weren't making a bet that Long Beach would become an aerospace hub. They were betting that it already is one. But here's what makes Long Beach different from single industry towns. The mayor calls it 45 cities in one. And that's just not branding, it's the economic reality. You've got the port supporting hundreds of thousands of logistic jobs. You got aerospace and defense tech. You got Cal State Long Beach with over 40,000 students. You got healthcare, Long Beach Memorial, St. Mary's Medical Center, Molina Healthcare headquarters. We're talking about 8,000 plus healthcare employees. This isn't a city that's going to collapse if one sector slows down. This is a city that's building an economy around multiple high-wage industries. And when you compare it to the other aerospace hubs, that diversification is the difference. Think about Huntsville, Alabama. They call it Rocket City. NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center is there. Defense contractors everywhere, but the entire economy is tied to federal defense spending. If Congress would cut the budget, the whole city feels it immediately. Or look at Seattle. Boeing's massive there. Boeing has layoffs or moves production, entire neighborhoods see the impact. Long Beach has built something different. The port gives them geographic leverage. Goods have to come through there. The aerospace cluster gives them high-wage job growth. Healthcare and education give them stability. It's not just one industry, it's an ecosystem. And that brings me back to housing, because when you have this much economic momentum in one place, the question isn't if prices are going up. The question is where and how fast. Before I forget, I'm Rick Lee with Real Broker, and my team and I help people move in and out of Long Beach and surrounding areas all the time. So if you're moving in 2 months or 2 years and you just want to chat, please don't hesitate to reach out. All of my info is on the screen and in the description below. Now, let's talk about who's moving here and what they can afford, because this is where the opportunity is if you know what to look for. Aerospace engineers are making about $120,000 to $180,000. Ford EV engineers are making about $110,000 to about $160,000. Rocket Lab's hiring aerospace talent at $95,000 to about $140,000. SpaceX engineers are making about $120,000 to about $170,000. Then you've got the port and logistics side. Supply chain managers are making $100,000 to $150,000. Logistics coordinators are making about $85,000 to $120,000 range. These aren't low-wage jobs. These are people who can afford significant house payments. And here's what most buyers don't know. The median home price in Long Beach right now is $895,000. That's up from $850,000 a year ago. But compared to Orange County, you're looking at 20 to 30% less for similar square footage and lot size. So when these companies bring in thousands of employees making 6 figures, where are they all gonna live? In just a minute, I'm gonna break down the exact neighborhoods where I'm seeing the most activity. But first, you need to understand what's being built around these jobs, because this isn't just office space, it's infrastructure. Let's go back to Douglas Park. This isn't just Anduril's campus. This is a 300-acre business park that's completely redeveloped. Right now, there are about 5,000 people working there across different companies. When Anduril's campus is done, that number jumps to 10,500 just in this one location. But here's what matters for real estate. Douglas Park is less than 20 minutes from most of Long Beach's residential neighborhoods. East Long Beach, Los Altos, Bixby Knolls, Cal Heights, all of them are within a 15 to 20 minute commute. And we're not just talking about one building going up. We're talking about a sustained construction and hiring cycle that's gonna go through 2027 and beyond. Which brings me to the infrastructure advantage that makes all of this possible. Long Beach has something that most cities don't: deep port infrastructure, an airport, rail connections, highway access to Los Angeles, Orange County, and the Inland Empire. When SpaceX needs to move a Dragon capsule, they're pulling it out of the water at the port. When Rocket Labs needs to ship components, they're doing it from Long Beach. When Ford needs to test drive electric vehicles, they've got immediate access to highways and urban environments. This isn't just a tech hub that's being built from scratch in the middle of nowhere. This is a city with 100 years of industrial infrastructure that's being retrofitted for advanced manufacturing and aerospace. And that infrastructure is one of the reasons defense spending is flowing here. Over the past 2 years, Long Beach aerospace companies have secured more than $750 million in Department of Defense contracts. That's not venture capital that could dry up in a downturn. That's federal spending tied to national security priorities. Rocket Lab's $550 million Space Force contract, Anduril's multi-billion-dollar DoD partnerships, these are all long-term commitments, multi-year programs, the kind of revenue that lets companies hire aggressively and invest in facilities. And when you combine federal defense spending with private investment from companies like Relativity Space, you're looking at billions of dollars flowing into one city over the next 5 years. Which brings us to what it means for housing, because this is where buyers are going to either position themselves correctly or miss the window entirely. Let me break down what I'm seeing in the Long Beach housing market right now, because prices don't move evenly. They move in pockets based on where demand is concentrated. The 600 to 800,000, this is the most competitive segment. You're looking at smaller single-family homes or condos. Multiple offers are coming in. They're getting scooped up fast by first-time buyers and people who want to get into Long Beach before prices climb further. The 800,000 to 1.1 million, this is the sweet spot for aerospace and logistic workers. You're getting a solid 3 or 4 bedroom home in a good neighborhood. East Long Beach, Bixby Knolls, Los Altos, California Heights, reasonable commutes to Douglas Park or the port. Good schools, this is where I'm seeing the most activity from out of area buyers who are relocating for work. The 1.1 to 1.5 million, this is where you start to see more negotiation leverage. Larger homes, better lots. Some of these properties sit a bit longer, which gives buyers more room to work on price. 1.5 million and up, this is your beach properties, Belmont Shore, Belmont Heights, Naples Island. These homes hold their value well because of location. But the inland properties at this point can sit longer unless they're really special. Right now, we're looking at about 3 to 3.5 months of inventory in Long Beach. That's below the 4 to 6 month range that's considered a balanced market. So sellers still have leverage, but it's not the multiple offer frenzy we saw a few years ago. The question is, what happens when Anduril starts bringing in 5,500 employees over the next 18 months? That inventory number is going to tighten, and prices in those target neighborhoods near Douglas Park are going to move. But let's talk about what you're actually getting when you live in Long Beach, because this isn't just about jobs and housing prices. You got miles of beaches, you got walkable neighborhoods like Belmont Shore, you've got the Aquarium of the Pacific, you got the Queen Mary, Shoreline Village, and tons of restaurants and breweries. You got Cal State Long Beach that brings a college town energy in parts of the city. And here's the thing that people don't expect. Long Beach has its own airport, and it's one of the best. You can fly to most major US cities without dealing with LAX. That's a huge quality of life advantage if you travel for work. So you're not just buying into the economic transformation. You're buying into a city that actually has a lifestyle attached to it. Now, let me be direct about the trade-offs, because no market is perfect. Long Beach has higher density than most of Orange County. You're not getting huge lots unless you pay a pretty penny. Some neighborhoods are still experiencing significant appreciation and transition, which means you need to be selective about where you buy. Traffic can be brutal, especially near the port and the 405-710 interchange. And if you're comparing schools, do your research. Some of the top-rated schools still don't match up with places like Irvine or Newport Beach, although that's changing as more families move in. But here's what you're getting in exchange. You're buying into a city with billions of dollars in investment, thousands of high-wage jobs being created, and housing prices that are still 20 to 30% below comparable areas in Orange County. So here's my long-term outlook on Long Beach. I think we're in the early stages of a sustained appreciation cycle, not a speculation bubble. This is real economic fundamentals: jobs, infrastructure, federal spending, geographic constraints. Long Beach is locked in by the ocean on one side and built-out cities on the other sides. The Anduril announcement was just the proof point. That was the market validating that Long Beach is the place for aerospace and defense tech on the West Coast. And when 5,500 employees start looking for housing in 2027, the neighborhoods within 20 minutes of Douglas Park are going to see the most immediate impact. So if I'm advising a buyer right now, here's where I'd focus. East Long Beach, close to Douglas Park. Good schools, strong appreciation potential. This is the neighborhood that's most directly in the path of the Anduril hiring wave. Bixby Knolls, established neighborhoods, walkable village feel, solid housing stock, reasonable commute to all the aerospace jobs. Los Altos has larger lots than most of Long Beach, good schools, and growing demand for all types of people. Signal Hill. Technically, it's its own city, but functionally part of Long Beach. Close to Douglas Park, views, more affordable than beach areas. California Heights, historic homes, character, walkable, strong community identity. If you can afford the beach premium, Belmont Shore and Belmont Heights are always going to hold value, but you're paying $1.2 million and up for that location. The sweet spot for most buyers making aerospace or logistic money is going to be the $800,000 to $1.1 million range in the neighborhoods I just mentioned. That's where I'd be looking if I were moving to Long Beach right now. All right, so let me answer those 3 questions I opened up with. 1, is the growth sustainable? Yes, it's not just one company. It's an aerospace cluster backed by federal defense spending and billions in private investment. 2, where are high-wage workers going to live? East Long Beach, Bixby Knolls, Los Altos, Signal Hill, Cal Heights, all within 20 minutes of Douglas Park. And 3, what's the biggest mistake most buyers are making? They're still thinking of Long Beach as just the cheaper alternative to Orange County. They're not seeing the economic transformation that's already underway. If you want to know the specific streets and neighborhoods I target if I were moving to Long Beach, I just made a whole video breaking that down. It's called "If I Were Moving to Long Beach, I Would Buy Here." I'll link it right now. I'll see you over there.